Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cate-Cast, an entertainment podcast. My name is Ezra, and I'm joined by
Ahmad
and Sawyer.
To break down how this works, each of us has brought a topic from each of our three categories, movies, TV, and games, to discuss with one another. Each topic has 10 minutes of discussion before we move on to the next. And at the very end, our last topic, or our last category, whichever one is on rotation, we're going to have sort of a special, broad discussion about something. TV, we have something that I think anybody who's listened to all of these might be able to catch pretty easily. It's been sort of a through line in all of our TV discussions so far, so I think we're all looking forward to talking about this. But we're going to start out with the games category this week. I'm going to lead us off with my Kingdom Hearts 3 hype train. I'm going to, every week from here until until the end of our first semester of podcasting.
With the exception of Thanksgiving.
With the exception of Thanksgiving. We are going to, or I am going to bring one of the Kingdom Hearts games, whichever one I see fit, probably by release, if I had to guess, in anticipation for Kingdom Hearts 3, because the week we come back will be the week that Kingdom Hearts 3 releases, which I did not realize until this past week. So I'm going to have some very base opinions on that game coming into it because I'm not going to have played very much of it by that time. But
you'll still be freaking out during it.
Oh, I will absolutely be freaking out. From the minute that game opens, I'm going to be like, whoa, this is awesome. So yeah.
What do you think is going to be in the game world? So have we talked about this before?
In Kingdom Hearts 3? Yeah. You're going to have to catch me on another topic because that's a whole
the new one that's coming out.
That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Is like I have like I have an hour and a half, so I have a whole podcast's worth of discussion I can do on just Kingdom Hearts 3 right now. So let's focus in a little bit.
So, rerouting Ahmad's question into a Kingdom Hearts 1, which is I believe your topic of the week. What are the coolest worlds in Kingdom Hearts 1?
The coolest world. So this is actually something that is important to understand right now. Kingdom Hearts is kind of like the first season of a TV show, in that in a lot of great TV shows, the first season is always not necessarily the weakest, but the hardest to get through because you just don't understand it yet. Mm-hmm. Kingdom Hearts was still ostensibly a sort of Disney park for video games before it sort of took the Final Fantasy route and did this whole convoluted story thing. So Kingdom Hearts 1 is... I think the big one for me is that it's the only instance of Tarzan in the Kingdom Hearts series. I think, it's not in Chain of Memories. I think it's only in Kingdom Hearts 1 because of the licensing issues that Tarzan has gone through.
Tarzan's public domain, though.
Is it?
Yeah.
It has to do with the... I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it has something to do with like the specific characters in the movie.
Oh.
I don't know exactly what it is.
Jane and...
I have no idea. I just know that there were some licensing issues. I think it has something to do with Square Enix, not necessarily with Disney itself.
Okay.
So it has Halloween Town.
It has Halloween Town.
That's interesting.
Halloween Town is probably one of the coolest because what they did was they redesigned Sora, Donald, and Goofy to fit better in the world. So they have some sort of Halloween-themed costumes, like Donald is a mummy, and Goofy... I think Goofy is a zombie? I don't remember. It's been a while since
Maybe Frankenstein?
I don't remember.
Olympus Coliseum.
Olympus Coliseum from Hercules is cool. It's in like all of the Kingdom Hearts games except for one, I think.
You also have Agrabah.
Aladdin is cool.
Yeah.
Aladdin, I think, is my favorite instance of a Disney franchise in a Kingdom Hearts game so far. Not because it's my favorite world, but because it does the coolest things with Aladdin and the other characters. And it's also like when I go through a Kingdom Hearts game and I'm playing each of these worlds, I want the lead character from those games to be in my party when I'm playing it. That's often not the case. Sometimes it's like a side character. I'm trying to draw a specific, like Kingdom Hearts 2 was actually not guilty of this. They had a lot of like Tron and Captain Jack and all of them were all party members in that game. But in Kingdom Hearts 1, that's definitely not the case.
I'm familiar with Kingdom Hearts 2 because I saw some gameplay over the summer. Shout out to Caleb. He showed me some gameplay.
Yeah.
And I was really intrigued by the Tron world.
Yeah,
so
the Tron world that they do in Kingdom Hearts 2 is really cool.
Yeah, I know Tron isn't in the first one.
Yeah.
Because they added that in
Yeah,
the
no,
second
it's
one.
not. Yeah, so I'll definitely talk more in 2 weeks about the Tron world and Kingdom Hearts 2 because I'm going to do like a whole deep dive on Kingdom Hearts 2 because that game is...
Tron seems like one of those series that everybody knows but no one ever talks about.
I love
That's
Jeff.
true.
I love Jeff Bridges. I mean the game or the movie itself.
It's been a while since I've seen the first movie. I actually really like Tron Legacy.
I liked it too.
I think
I'm in the. I don't know. Both of us are in the minority on this.
Yeah.
But sorry. Do you like Tron Legacy?
Oh, I love Tron Legacy.
So I guess all three of us. I guess
I think it really works.
I think it worked, but I know I've met a lot of people who. I mean, obviously it was I guess critically bashed, but it still made its money back. I think it made $400,000.
It just didn't do as well as Disney wanted it to do. They wanted it to be a mega
$1 billion
blockbuster.
sort of.
And
which they shouldn't have expected that from Tron.
For a niche 80s sci-fi movie
game. Yeah. But for what it was, it still made a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think, and the visuals were so. Oh man, so.
And that Daft Punk soundtrack.
Daft Punk soundtrack. Also, for the first time, at least from my recollection, the use of aging technology, sort of just the age Jeff Bridges. I was like, wow. When I rewatched it, didn't age as well. No pun intended. But he kind of looks like a plastic doll, kind of in some. But obviously, that was 2011.
I always thought it worked.
I know, but back then. But I rewatched this. Like I rewatched it every year just because I loved the movie. And you could kind of tell he was
sure. Yeah.
But obviously digital technology has come a long way.
Yeah. And without them using that technology in Tron Legacy, we would never get what's going to happen in Captain Marvel or
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ant-Man, yeah. So anyways, Kingdom Hearts. The first Kingdom Hearts game, it gets a sort of solid 7 out of 10 from me. Like it's not a bad game, but it's certainly not my favorite Kingdom Hearts game.
How so?
For one thing, the combat is super stiff and undeveloped in it. It sort of feels like... It feels more like an RPG that's trying to be an action game.
So do they improve on this?
Oh yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2, when I get to Kingdom Hearts 2, I'm gonna... Like, my tune on the series shifts entirely when I play Kingdom Hearts 2. Because up until that point, I have been like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, do I really care about this? I mean, it's good. But some of the stuff I at that point, when I was playing Kingdom Hearts for the first time, I was mostly playing through it, so I knew where I was at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2. Because I had seen some stuff from Kingdom Hearts 2, and I was like, I want to play that game. So I waited to play Kingdom Hearts 2. So yeah, Kingdom Hearts 1, 7 out of 10. They do some cool stuff with the Disney worlds. Atlantis, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna take control of your...
Atlantica.
The Little Mermaid world.
Yeah.
Is interesting because they transform Sora, Donald, and Goofy into sea creatures. So Goofy is a turtle, and Donald is a squid.
That makes a lot of sense.
So So it really works.
You have the 100-acre wood from the Winnie the
So the 100-acre wood is always the minigame world, no matter what. Like you're not fighting enemies. You're not doing any of that stuff. It's
I
always
couldn't see there being any enemy fighting.
Yeah. Well, so
Tigger maybe. I don't know.
That's true, but in a lot of these worlds, what they do is they don't have the enemies from those movies. They have specific Kingdom Hearts made enemies called the Heartless, and so
It was the rabbit was the mean one, right? The meaner one.
Piglet? No, Piglet's not a rabbit.
No, Rabbit.
Dog,
It's
it's
literally
Piglet.
Rabbit. His name is literally Rabbit.
Yeah, rabbit. I think he was the old.
I'm not exactly
Yeah, he's the old
well-versed.
grumpy
Tigger
one.
was the cooler one. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
Tigger's the cool.
I'm not
one.
well versed in Christopher Robin.
No,
lore.
I used to love. I didn't see I didn't see Christopher. I didn't see Christopher Robin.
I want to see Christopher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But from what I recall, Tigger was the cool one. Obviously, Winnie the Pooh, and then Rabbit was the the grouch. Sort of.
Yeah, there are definitely no enemies to fight in one, because it's definitely more of like a happy time world. Yeah.
So are there more difficult worlds to play, or like is it
Yeah. So Ahmad is looking at the wiki for Kingdom Hearts 1. And all of these worlds are listed pretty much in sort of chronological order. There's some choice, like I think you can go to Atlantica and Halloween Town at like different times. Like you can choose which one you go to first. But this is all basically scaled to the chronology of the story. So the last world, the end of the world, is a completely different like Kingdom Hearts made world. I don't like it as much just because it's just like this weird sequence of random places that doesn't make any sense. It kind of reminds me of the end of Majora's Mask in some ways. But I don't know if that's supposed to because it's an homage or if it's just because that's what Nomura was thinking about at that time. I have no idea. But yeah, I will say they did a really cool thing in the fact that they have Final Fantasy characters in what is ostensibly a Disney property, and it works.
I never would have thought that would work.
Yeah, and it works, and it's when Donald Duck talks to Goofy, talks to Squall Leonard from Final Fantasy VIII, I think. It's not jarring at all. It wasn't jarring for me, at least. Maybe that's because I wasn't particularly familiar with Final Fantasy when I was playing Kingdom Hearts. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts, I think it's worth playing. My last thing that I'll say, and I'll probably say this at the end of every episode or every segment, Kingdom Hearts segment that I have, is that you can get, at the end of October 2018, you can get literally all of the games in one collection for $40. And that's like 6 games or something.
Well, you
6
should also
full
put
games.
like an asterisk on the end there that isn't like 2 of them are just the CG cutscenes. There's no.
Yeah, 2 of them are movies, but legitimately like 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
Whole games for $40.
And the ones that are just the CG cutscenes were just they were like, was it a cell phone game and a Game Boy game?
Well, the one of them was a DS game that was a remake of a cell phone game.
Mm-hmm.
It's mildly story relevant. It's more story relevant now that some things have come out in some of the Kingdom Hearts 3 trailers. But it wasn't as much at the at the time nobody was like,
oh boy,
yeah,
cell phone game.
This is super important to the storyline. The other one is actually relevant to the storyline because it follows the character that we meet in Kingdom Hearts at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2 before Kingdom Hearts 2.
And what platform is that on?
It was on DS.
So there's remakes or cutscenes of both DS games?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they just didn't want to remake both DS games.
So why did the PSP one get ported but not the...
Because it actually follows a Kingdom Hearts graphical style, whereas the other DS games were more tailored to the DS itself.
Okay.
And the 3DS game also follows the Kingdom Hearts graphical style a lot more.
It
So
could also be because of the dual screens, whereas on PSP.
In the 3DS game, it's not as jarring because they didn't do as much with the touch controls, so they just had to sort of change what they did do with the touch controls to work better with the PS4. So
it's kind of like when they ported the Resident Evil Revelations from 3DS to console.
Yeah, I'm sure. I highly recommend that, if only because it's probably the cheapest way you can play Kingdom Hearts 2, because Kingdom Hearts 2 is... The other way you could play it on modern consoles is to buy the 2.5 remix, and that's like $60 or so, 50 or $60. So if this is $40 and you only play Kingdom Hearts 2, which I tell everybody, if you're going to play one Kingdom Hearts game, play Kingdom Hearts 2. I'll get to that later in this podcast's life. But yeah, I would recommend it just for that. But all of the other games are perfectly playable. They all age pretty well.
Check it out. And does that include Kingdom Hearts 3 in the package, or is it separate?
No, you get that. You could pay an extra $60 and get Kingdom Hearts 3.
Of course.
But yes, they are doing like an all-in-one package where they have the whole thing and you pay like $100 or something. So it's not.
Now, is 3 going to be the end, or is this kind of...
No, it's the end of the Saiyan saga. As in the Darkseeker saga.
Yeah, so there'll be more.
Which he said that Sora's gonna still be the main character, and that disappoints me. I would have liked them to do like a Rian Johnson new Star Wars trilogy where it has nothing to do with this cast that we have. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. So yeah, Kingdom Hearts 1, 7 out of 10. Didn't talk about it as extensively as I'm sure I'll talk about Kingdom Hearts 2. But next week, Chain of Memories. I'll have to actually open that game in my console because I don't want to play it because it's a bad game. Mm-hmm. So anyways, let's move on. I've gotten really long. Ahmad, Arkham Asylum.
Arkham Asylum, and were we going to talk about the Arkham games?
We can talk about the Arkham games. We can leave some of them for next week. Whatever you want to.
I'm sure we'll probably not talk as much about Origins.
Origins was its own thing. It's sort of a different developer and
So we're talking like the main trilogy here.
Yeah. So a main trilogy. Arkham Asylum is what started it off. So 2009. I remember when the game came out, and I was really excited for it. I mean, this was back when like you had the Christopher Nolan, the Joker, Dark Knight came out. I think it around that.
Well, I mean, originally Arkham Asylum was meant to be a tie-in game for Dark Knight.
Really, was it?
Yeah, but they scrapped that later on because how do you make a video game out of the Dark Knight?
Oh man,
that doesn't make any sense to me.
Although Mark Hamill did voice the Joker, which was really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Because obviously the animated series, he was voicing the Joker, and I loved that. I just loved the gameplay. It was something different, I think, from anything I had seen.
It's what basically has started this sort of renaissance in AAA games nowadays.
And
combat.
licensed games.
Yeah, basically every licensed game has Arkham Asylum combat now.
Well, I would say most games from Warner Brothers in general has that, or even like superhero games.
Yeah, it's basically the WB combat system and then the superhero combat system.
Like what open world games are to Ubisoft is what Arkham Combat is to WB.
Yeah, exactly.
So the developer was Rocksteady,
which
is part of the controversy behind Origins because it got passed over to WB. What's the WB?
Montreal.
That's right, Montreal.
If you can't think of the name of the developer, it's probably whatever that publisher is, Montreal.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And you had the original cast they weren't voicing the characters in Origins, which was bad because I love the characters.
Then again, they also got Troy Baker, which is not a bad replacement.
I mean,
Troy Baker's Joker is actually pretty good.
Yeah. Even Arkham Origins wasn't like the whole series. There's not a bad game.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I haven't played the Arkham games yet. But I know that a lot of people don't think Arkham Origins is a bad game. They just don't think it reaches up to the heights of the original.
That's a perfect explanation for it. Like Origins, there's nothing about it that's particularly bad. It's just unoriginal.
Yeah.
Like these main 3 games, they added something new that changed it each time. Sure, the stories were your typical Batman stories a lot of the time, but they found a way to merge in all these different ideas and villains into one story that actually made sense. It wasn't drowned out or drawn out, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas Arkham Origins, it kind of eventually felt like, what are we doing
Yeah.
here? Like, it's just kind of
Yeah.
a bunch of just villains popping up.
Exactly. And I just love all the little side quests, like the Riddler stuff, the things you had to find for that, and that was cool. I don't know. What do you guys have you played?
Yeah, I've played all of them.
Yeah.
I think my favorite one is probably City.
Okay.
I think the story was the tightest in Arkham Knight, but it was probably also the least original in Arkham Knight.
Yeah, that was also the controversy around Arkham Knight was that spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers for the whole series.
Yeah,
right
they
here.
did Jason Todd as the Arkham Knight when they were saying that the Arkham Knight's something totally original.
And then it just ends up being Red Hood.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have minded it so bad if Rocksteady hadn't come out right and said it's a completely new character.
Yeah.
If they hadn't said that and just kept their mouth shut, I wouldn't have been upset about it. But it's the fact that they deliberately said to us, "Hey, this is a whole new character."
Yeah, this
and then it
isn't
ends
a
up being
comic
the same.
storyline that you have any familiarity with at all.
Yeah.
It's completely original. Nah, it's Jason Todd.
Yeah.
Like that's not honest.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the game itself, the gameplay is great. The game is so much fun.
Yeah.
Although I am disappointed to learn that the Deathstroke fight is a tank fight.
That was the only weak part of the entire game. There is a tank fight for Deathstroke, which is disappointing because what was the game where you fought him in previously? Was it Arkham Origins?
Origins, yeah.
Yeah, or the fight in Origins with Deathstroke is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the fact that we just got it as a tank fight was disappointing.
Yeah, that was. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Wow.
Also, what developer? Who in the developing room was like, "Oh yes, Slade Wilson, the character known for hand-to-hand combat. Let's put him in a tank."
He definitely drives a tank.
Yeah.
No.
Oh man. Yeah.
No, thanks.
This was before the MCU universe and everything.
Yeah.
And DC were doing.
No, it wasn't.
Was
Iron Man was
2009.
Yeah.
That's right.
It was
the
the
beginning.
Iron
It
Man.
wasn't.
It was
big.
Iron Man.
It wasn't
Incredible Hulk.
It hadn't been
the Incredible Hulk was.
considered. It hadn't been considered the MCU until much later.
But DC had, I think, at this point, obviously, I think the Dark Knight had cast a shadow over.
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I think at least, and DC were doing their.
They are
right.
still dealing with the ramifications of Dark Knight right now because they're trying to capture that still when they should be.
I was talking.
That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing. I mean, they were trying to be the serious Christopher Nolan after that because that's what they wanted. That's what got the most money for them, and it was just didn't work out for them.
What I think is great about these games, specifically Arkham Asylum, is most of the time, and I haven't played Spider-Man PS4 yet, so I can't judge that yet. So this could be, my point could change a little bit when we get...
Everything you're probably going to say right now about Batman probably applies maybe even greater to Spider-Man PS4. So
what I've noticed is a lot of the time when you get a licensed superhero game, it just is kind of, let's slap ideas you've already seen in the movie into the game. It's just kind of retreading stuff you already know. Namely, like, why most superhero games are either an adaptation of a cartoon or the movies.
Yeah.
Batman Arkham Asylum was the one that took ideas from the comic books and basically just translated a comic storyline exactly to the games without making almost any changes.
Yep, that's
I can only ever think of like Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, which is like a very loose adaptation.
Yeah.
That and then was Web of Shadows even based on a comic?
I don't know.
But like Arkham Asylum, that one, they took the Arkham Asylum comic series and just, or I guess it was just called Batman Arkham or Arkham something, whatever it was. It's based on a comic.
Yeah.
It translated it right into a game, and it worked beautifully.
So Spider-Man PS4 is not a comic adaptation; it's an original Spider-Man storyline. But it
still adapts what the modern comics are about.
Yeah.
You have the new Batman Arkham VR experience, which is cool.
I have played that. I will say, if you're trying to have it live up to the original trilogy, it does not live up. It's a cool experience, especially for VR, because you do feel like you are Batman in the situation. That being said,
makes you feel like Batman.
That's the whole. That is plastered all over the box.
Oh,
feel like Batman.
Really? Oh my god.
That's the hack critic reviewer when like the IGN review says feel like Spider-Man.
That was their
like,
targeting.
Like
their marketing gimmick was feel like Batman.
Oh my god.
But Or no, maybe it was Be the Batman. I don't know. One of the two.
Batman.
I think it was Be the Batman.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that's
I definitely have seen You Feel Like Batman at some point
yeah.
somewhere.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But regardless, the game, if you're looking for a fun, and also the game is like 90 minutes long.
Yeah.
It is ridiculously short. It retails for like $20.
Yeah.
It's fun. There's not much story there, and also me having played the entire trilogy, continuity-wise, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, slight spoilers for it, but I'm sure Arkham VR is not what you really care about.
Yeah.
The beginning of the game, Dick Grayson is killed, and you're searching for his killer.
Oh, wow.
But that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because Dick Grayson is alive at the time of Arkham Knight, but Batman is allegedly not at the end of Arkham Knight.
Yeah.
So how is he searching for Dick Grayson's killer if he's supposed to be dead?
It's not canon.
No.
It's a what if story.
Yes.
This is actually something that I think video game developers should take from the Dragon Ball video games. Actually, is what Dragon Ball video games will do is they'll adapt the broad Dragon Ball Z storyline, and they'll do like a however intricate an adaptation they want to do of that. But then they'll have this whole separate thing where you play what if scenarios, and it's like pits various characters against each other in this like weird dialogue thing, and that's basically what Dragon Ball games have been doing. That's sort of what I want game developers who are doing licensed games to do, is to just take a property and do a what if, like what if Spider-Man and Thanos got put in a room together and had to fight or something, just something like that, right? Like not necessarily that, but like
we get that for Tron. Going back to Tron.
What if Tron had to do this one thing, right? Like
that'd be so cool.
This is something that I think Rocksteady did right. Is they this is actually something that I think the Injustice games have done right. Is it's basically a what if scenario. What if Superman takes over the world, right? Like, and I mean there are clear comic adaptations there that they're doing, but yeah, I think
well, specifically superheroes, that whole industry since like the 40s has been based on what if.
Yeah.
Like this would be cool if we did this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right.
So anyways,
Arkham Asylum.
Arkham
Game. The Arkham games are. I mean, the Arkham Asylum is what really took the whole franchise off. But the rest of the games are really good. So check them out.
And the main three are available on modern consoles, but Origin's not. Origins, you got to have a PS3 or a 360 to play on, or I guess Wii U. But
no.
But it's
there were 12 million people who had.
I have a Wii U myself. I'm just saying, most people nowadays are not gonna. They're gonna have to switch. But yeah, there's the Return to Arkham pack has.
Asylum
and City, and then you can buy Arkham Knight separate. I will say, the story DLC is worth picking up for all three games. I haven't played the story DLC for Origins, the Cold Heart Mr. Freeze one. I haven't played that. But it's short, and if you buy the Return to Arkham pack, I believe, Ahmad, you might want to check on this.
Yeah.
I believe all the DLC is included in the Return to Arkham pack, so you don't have to worry about that. But for Arkham Knight, there is no version that comes with all of it. I would just say you're going to want, I believe it's called the Season of Infamy, worth it. And the Batgirl one, while it's short, is worth it. The one with Nightwing is ridiculously short.
Oh,
and
it is included, sorry.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I would say the Arkham Knight ones, really, unless you have the Season Pass, which I think you get a heck of a lot of content for the Season Pass to be worth it. But if you're going to just pick one or two things, the Batgirl Mountain of Family and Season of Infamy.
Okay.
Season of Infamy adds like 5 new villains in for you to like take down, including I think like Mad Hatter, Mr. Freeze. The Mr. Freeze one is excellent.
Oh,
I love the Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
Worth checking out.
Yeah. You guys good on Arkham Asylum?
Yep.
Cool. So Sawyer, I have to give you a hard and fast 10 minutes on Metal Gear.
You're going to have to help me on this one.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. You got 20 minutes.
Okay, so Metal Gear, I've talked about this a little bit in previous episodes. Specifically, I believe it was last week when I talked about Kojima and the state of gaming and all that. So the Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid, they're both the same series, is one of my favorite, if not my favorite of all time, series Not
Okay.
not just games, but just series in general, film, television, books, all of that. It rivals Star Wars for my favorite, and I think this series has the best storytelling and most complex storytelling I've ever seen.
Okay. Best.
It's cheesy and it's also super serious and thought-provoking at the same time. Which, if you can do that and make somebody laugh and also think at the same time, that's good.
Yeah.
Have any of you guys played any of the games before?
Nope.
I've heard of them, but I've never played.
Yeah, I mean,
I know I've seen.
Hey, does Smash Brawl count as a
Okay,
Metal
well,
Gear game?
Yeah, I don't know.
I
but-
played as Snake in that game at some point, right?
You
Like,
have played a game featuring Snake, I'll give you that. But it's
I've played a Metal Gear game.
I know my brothers have played it, and I've seen gameplay, and I've seen them play it. But it looks interesting. I've never.
They are, if you like storytelling in games, these are worth playing. Unfortunately, there is no single platform where you can get every single game. If you have a PS3, you can play almost all of them. Actually, no, I think you might be able to play all of them on PS3. Yeah. So there's the Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection, which has the first two. So I should probably clarify this. For the Metal Gear series, there are the titling and numbering is weird. So there's Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2, which were released on a system called the MSX, which was a Japanese computer, kind of like their equivalent of like the Apple II. They later got ported to the PS2 in like 2006, well, not 2006, probably 2003, years after they had come out in Japan. The second one had not left Japan until it was in PS2. The first one came to the NES, but it was a really crappy port of that.
Okay.
But they both eventually, the Japanese version of the original came to PS2 with the second one. It was a bonus feature on the PS2 version of Metal Gear Solid 3. But yeah, the first two MSX games for the computer in Japan. Then there was Metal Gear Solid, Solid 2, Solid 3, Solid 4, Peace Walker, Solid Peace Walker, and then Solid 4, Solid 5. So
5, the Phantom Pain.
Well,
And yeah, the Rising.
the Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, there's, in true Metal Gear fashion and with confusing titling and numbering, there are two games called Metal Gear Solid 5. Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes and Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. Both of them are Metal Gear Solid 5 and total as one complete package. You can get a package called Metal Gear Solid 5 The Definitive or like the Complete Collection or something like that, and it's got both on one disc, I believe. If you're going to play Metal Gear Solid 5, pick up that. It's got both installments in it. There's no reason to buy Ground Zeroes separate. It is worth playing, though, because if you don't play that and you start 5, you're going to have no idea what happened when you go from Peace Walker to 5. Yeah, they're great games. The engine, the Fox engine they use for the 5th one is mind-blowing. The characters look so good.
Oh, man.
That being said, there are a ton of spin-offs, but only the ones that I just mentioned are worth playing.
Metal Gear Solid Rising.
Metal Gear Rising is worth playing.
Oh.
Keep in mind, it's not...
That's the action game.
Yeah,
right?
it's the one that Platinum Games made featuring the character
Was
Raiden.
it? That's right, I forgot about
I forgot about that one, too.
I thought it was Koei Tecmo.
It is worth checking out. It is a very, very different style than the main games.
Wow.
The main games are stealth action games.
Mm-hmm.
That game is a straight up hack and slash game.
Wow.
And there is no stealth in that game whatsoever. They give you like 2 or 3 opportunities to do stealth, but it is almost impossible to do because you can just take people out much easier just with slashing than it is.
Yeah.
So that one worth checking out for the story, and the gameplay is great. But if for Metal Gear fans, you're gonna think this is even hilarious that this game, Metal Gear Rising, is even more ridiculous than the main series, and that's saying something. Like this game is.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
you told
a
us a
scene
little bit
where
about it.
Cyborg Raiden runs up a building, dodging rockets as he jumps off rocket to rocket, while heavy metal screeches in the background.
That sounds awesome.
It is one of the greatest
Not
moments
not
in video
as
games.
awesome as some of the stuff in Kingdom Hearts, but I'll give that to you.
Raiden
It's
also
awesome.
grabs a giant Metal Gear tank by the leg, lifts it up, which doesn't make any sense gravity-wise, spins it, and throws it.
That sounds equally awesome.
It is one of the greatest moments in video game history. But yeah, the other spin-offs, there's like Acid 1 and 2, which are like tactical card games. I've never played them. They're just me.
Yeah.
And there was, I think the only other thing was a game called Portable Ops. Now, Portable Ops is interesting. because Portable Ops is technically not canon, but
Yeah.
fans dispute that all the time. To fans, the only games that are canon are the ones that were written and directed by Hideo Kojima, the series creator. Portable Ops was produced by him, but he did not write it, or actually he might have written it, but he did not direct it. So fans dispute that back and forth because it does have a story that ties in with the other games, and it is a regular stealth game, but it was only ever released on the PSP, and the controls are atrocious. Because it's a third-person action game, but there's only one analog stick on a PSP, which makes it almost impossible to play.
Yikes.
So, if you want to experience the full story, just look up the cutscenes for Portable Ops. Don't bother picking up the game on the PSP, because it is the only one of the main core series you can't get on the PS3.
Yeah.
I would say that the entire series, the Legacy Collection, as long as you buy it new, you can buy it new for like $25, which is all 4 of the main Solid games, as well as Peace Walker, the VR missions. It's not actually in VR, but it's called VR missions. It makes sense when you play it, for the first game, as well as the 2 MSX games. So you're getting 7 full games in the Legacy Collection for $25, as long as you buy it new, because the first Solid game is a DLC code. So you have to buy it new for that one. But that game's also like $5 in the PS Store.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that, and then Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, which they made up a word.
Isn't that like a PS3 game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So honestly, the Legacy Collection, Rising Revengeance, those two together, and you can also, they're hard to find, but there are PS3 versions of Metal Gear Solid 5, Ground Zeroes, and the Phantom Pain. You can get. They're not nearly as good graphically as the PS4 versions are, or performance-wise, but if you want one place to play all the mainline games, plus Revengeance, it is worth. Honestly, I think it's worth picking up a PS3 for, because you can get a used PS3 nowadays for like what, $100, something like that.
Yeah.
It is worth it to play this entire series.
Okay. Neat. Someday, Konami will sell the rights to Metal Gear to Capcom. It sounds like a very Capcom series to me. So I could see it happening, and Capcom will do it justice.
Metal Gear and Resident Evil have both followed very similar paths.
You can get a PS3 used for $30.
Well, it has
plus $12.
This is on eBay.
Yeah, this is on eBay. So I don't know.
And it needs like parts.
Regardless, you can get a cheap PS3 if you wanted to.
They're cheap
for $100 or under. Don't spend more than that on a PS3, because there's really no reason to spend more than $100 on a PS3 nowadays.
Yeah, look at it on a GameStop's website. That's usually like a good barometer.
Yeah, it is honestly worth picking up a used PS3 just to play this.
I've thought about it. I've thought about buying like older consoles.
I've already done that.
How many? Oh yeah.
That's a whole other conversation.
He like collects.
Yeah, I collect retro consoles.
Yeah.
Man, GameStop's website is so whack.
Yeah. And if buying a used PS3 is not, like, if you're interested in Metal Gear out there, listeners, and you want
$100.
And if you want to experience the series, but you don't want to track down a PS3 for $100 and play all of them, what the best part about the series, while the gameplay is fun, the best part about the series is not the gameplay, it's the story. If you want to experience it, there are channels on YouTube that have taken all of the cutscenes and relevant gameplay and cut them together into basically 9-hour movies. Some of them are longer than others. Like, I believe Metal Gear Solid 5 is like 16 hours. But if you watch them in chunks, because YouTube saves your place on videos, you watch them in chunks as like a TV series every night, the series, or like the gameplay and cutscenes, tell just as good of a story.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to experience the series but you don't want to buy a PS3 to play them, you don't get exactly the same experience, but you still get a great experience of watching all of the cutscenes. That being said, watch everything in release order. Do not do it in chronological order, or it's going to have a lot of spoilers for things that happen later.
Okay. Cool.
And the MSX games are canon, even though they're not, don't say solid in them. There's no dialogue because they're 16-bit games, so there's music, just dialogue. But other than that, that's really it.
64-bit or bust, man. All right, cool.
128-bit actually.
SNES, man, good console. All right,
So, is that all you wanted to say about Metal Gear?
Pretty much it. Yeah, just avoid the spin-offs except for Rising Revengeance and I guess technically Portable Ops. And check it out. It's worth checking out. Worth getting the PS3 for.
Yeah. Also, play Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Yeah, Snake is in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and he's gonna be in
Ultimate.
Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah.
By everybody's surprise.
Yeah, which
I lost my
didn't
mind
expect
when I
that.
saw that. I was like, what?
Konami literally hasn't made a new Metal Gear game since 2015, but Snake is in a Smash Brothers game. That doesn't make any sense to me, but yeah.
I mean, he's part of video game history. Anyways, movies. So, I'm foregoing my movie this week because, for one thing, we are 40 minutes in and we have a 30-minute discussion about TV.
Yeah.
Ahmad and Sawyer have both seen Venom. I have not.
Yes.
So we're gonna do
For better or for worse.
20.
And,
We're gonna do
spoilers
somewhere
on Venom.
around 20 minutes. Spoilers, quotation marks.
But, I
for
mean,
Venom.
yeah.
Venom.
So
oh man, there's so much
yeah.
to say. There's so
yeah,
much.
So
where
let's
do we
let's
begin?
start with some base.
Well,
so I don't mind if you guys spoil it for me. We've talked about this.
There really
Give
isn't
me-
much to spoil.
Yeah. So
There
give
isn't
me
much to
give me
spoil.
some
Let's-
base opinions about this movie.
The pacing was the film happened so fast. I mean, like just didn't
What's
make
the
any sense.
runtime?
It's an hour and 47.
I mean, the film had a good time, like a good runtime, but the plot happened so fast.
Yeah. Well, also you got to subtract that because there's 17 minutes of credits.
Yeah.
So
17 minutes.
something like that. I heard, allegedly.
With 15 minutes of
I
a-
didn't calculate it myself. but
What?
Did you calculate the 15
That's
minutes at
crazy.
the end with the Into the Spider-Verse?
I did not
storyline?
count the Spider-Verse thing.
Okay.
So I just saw. I watched the Filmhouse podcast, and a member of their crew said that it was 17 minutes, but that could have been counting the Into the Spider-Verse.
I was gonna
clip that
say
you see
a
at
credit sequence shouldn't take more than 7 minutes. I would say.
Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
talking about the end credit sequence.
Yeah.
Should we just pretty much spoil it, or
You had.
I mean, so
Spoilers.
the end credit sequence. We're gonna tear this movie apart.
Well,
This is like
which
dissecting.
one are you talking? You're
So-
talking about the
both
first one.
both two. Yeah.
Okay,
So the first
yeah.
one. So first end credit sequence, you see Carnage, Woody Harrelson, played by Woody Harrelson, which
I will
at first-
watch a Carnage movie starring Woody Harrelson.
Well, here's the thing. You didn't
That-
see
I
it.
will
You didn't
watch
see how he
that.
looked, though. I didn't. He was
It is
unrecognizable.
the cheapest like Party City wig you've
yeah,
ever seen.
it's like a
He's
freaking.
wearing.
It's a red. So it's a red-haired wig.
That's okay. It's Woody Harrelson playing Carnage.
Okay. Let me tell you how the scene goes. So Tom Hardy walks into the movie's already been over. I'm already like, what did I just sit through?
Yeah.
Listen, so
Yeah.
Tom Hardy's like he's talking to Venom and he's like, oh, this is just something I gotta do. No talking, don't distract me during this. Walks in, Woody Harrelson is I'm just gonna call him Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
That's really what he is
Yeah.
in the scene.
Yeah.
Has painted Hello Eddie with his own blood on like the bars of like his like cell or whatever.
Yeah.
And the scene literally looks exactly like the cell that Harley Quinn was in Suicide Squad. It literally almost looks exactly the same. So he's in there. Tom Hardy starts asking him questions, and they're talking back and forth. And literally the final line that Cate-Cast, played by Woody Harrelson, says is, "When I get out of here, there will be carnage." Looks right into the camera.
With
and
his-
the
with his-
scene ends.
That's awesome.
Looks
I don't
right
know
into
what
the-
you
there
guys
will
are
be
hating.
carnage.
That is ridiculous.
That is awesome.
Is it awesome though with the wig
I'm-
the wig he was wearing? I don't think it was that awesome.
No, the wig. It was
I'm-
literally a Party City.
It was
wig.
a Party City clown
I'm telling
wig.
you, the way you guys are describing this is not doing justice to how bad it must be, how much you guys are hating it, because the way that you guys are talking about it makes it sound awesome.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people. So the sad thing is, I was on Box Office Mojo, and
Yeah.
the film, there was
It had
comparing,
like a massive.
it was
opening
so it was
weekend.
comparing it to Logan, and with a 10-day run, Venom scored more than Logan.
Of course
at the
it
10-day
did.
That
mark.
could also be skewed because of the R rating.
It could be skewed, but that was just kind of depressing. I mean, I was like, wow, this is like Logan's lot better.
I am not surprised.
But yeah, you're right. I think
Also,
the
this
R
movie
rating.
made $80 million opening weekend.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I mean, I was
this movie does not deserve.
So
that.
I was hoping it'd be
I'll tell you what.
I was hoping the film would be R-rated, obviously, but it was PG-13 or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think it would have made as much money.
Yeah, I'm
if it
rarely
was
the
R.
guy that says like, "Oh, a movie should be R-rated." I don't necessarily ascribe to that very much. Like, just rate the movie Like I think the rating system is there as an afterthought.
Yeah.
It should not be made with a rating in mind.
Well,
right?
studios will do that though because they're like, we have to be getting sure we get a PG-13.
Yeah,
so
I think you're right. I just think in my mind, I don't want to make a movie with the R rating.
I don't
in
want to do
mind.
that.
You know,
either.
it's surprising nowadays what could be in a PG-13 film because a lot of the stuff was it was.
Well, it
Yeah.
also varies wildly from film to film because the
Yeah.
MPAA is
Yeah.
pointless.
Well,
But-
and well, the other problem too is like the Matrix is rated R, right? There's not much nowadays. We wouldn't consider that rated
there's
R.
literally nothing in the Matrix that's
Yeah.
rated
Yeah.
R.
That's just because it was before PG-13 was a thing.
Yeah.
So it's like they had to sort of choose, and they couldn't do PG, so they just had to do R.
They had
There wasn't
PG-13 in
another
1999, didn't they?
No.
When did PG-13 become a thing?
Fact checker, do it. So, anyways,
So let's talk
Venom.
about
I
the
could have sworn because wasn't Indiana Jones Last Crusade was PG-13 and that came out in '89, didn't it? Or is it, am I
1984.
84 was a PG-13.
Jump
Is that right?
July
Huh.
1st, 1984 was when
Weird.
PG-13 was introduced.
I was
But-
always
So it's like
under the
I knew
impression
Last
that-
Crusade was PG-13.
I was always under the impression that Matrix had come out before the R rating was there.
Which makes sense.
Maybe that just means our standards have gotten way lower.
Yeah, they have. But anyway, so let's talk about Venom. I saw, like I mentioned, the film happened really fast. So the opening like 30 minutes, first act of the film.
Yeah.
You get introduced to his character, his job, his girlfriend, right? He's not married.
Oh no, he had a ring or she had a ring.
Or fiance.
Something like that,
Fiance.
yeah.
You get introduced to all these
Happy
people.
metal.
They're madly in love, and like within the next scene, he loses his job. His wife just completely her love for him just goes out
It's
of
like, nope, bye.
Just bye out of nowhere.
Wow.
Just because of the job, just because she got fired because
She's a lawyer and the guy Eddie Brock's a reporter.
Yeah.
The guy he's going after, she was like doing some legal case for.
Yeah.
He checked her email and apparently used some of that info in a interview with Riz Ahmed's character.
Yeah.
And then she got fired because of that, and all of a sudden they're just
The
gone.
love is gone. All the
Wow.
all the affection you had just seen in the scene previous is gone, which was
There
so
was-
jarring.
yeah.
Yeah, this is a bad movie.
There is literally no reason for his whatever she is to be in the movie.
Yeah.
You could completely write her out, and the movie would be
Which is
literally
really
different.
sad because I think some of the scenes in the film were kind of sexist in a way.
She's only there because it was the studio was like, we have to have a female lead, so let's write her
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
That's the only reason she is there.
I just don't know.
So this points to an issue that I have with the movie, is that I feel like it's kind of just Planet of the Apes, like the first Planet in the Planet of the Apes trilogy, the one with James Franco.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but with Venom.
Don't compare that. No. Rise of
This
the Planet
movie
of the
is
Apes
a
good.
lot worse than that.
What?
Oh, I'm sure.
You don't
I'm-
like? You
no,
don't like
I love the Planet of the Apes movies. I just look at especially the first
Yeah.
one has kind of that standard like the evil scientists and the like you free the.
This movie is like somebody on
The
YouTube
thing.
tried to recreate Rise of the Planet of the Apes with Venom.
Yeah.
That's really what this movie
Pretty
is.
much.
Yeah.
And the symbiotes.
There is nothing wholly original in this movie. It follows your generic sci-fi action movie template.
I think throughout the whole film, I felt bad for the actors mostly, just because I know Tom Hardy, Riz Ahmed, all the actors and actresses in the film are a lot better than the script.
The 2-minute trailer for Into the Spider-Verse before this movie was a better Marvel movie than this entire film was.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that.
Miles Morales, and this is quoting Adam Kovic, I believe it's Adam Kovic from Funhouse. He literally said, Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales in the trailer for Into the Spider-Verse has more of a character arc than Eddie Brock does in the entire Venom movie.
Wow.
I mean,
That's amazing.
that's I would agree.
That Into the Spider-Verse trailer.
Okay, so
pretty awesome.
Let's talk about some of the cheesier scenes. Riz Ahmed puts his hand. He says a biblical quote, tries to pertain it to and then he puts his hand on the glass, and the experimental patient on the other side puts his hand on the
I
glass.
have to shut up for a second. Holy crap!
And it was so cheesy. That
And he
whole
makes
line.
a whole, because the hobo's name,
Yeah.
they're experimenting on homeless people, and the homeless guy's name is Isaac, and he does some whole Abraham Isaac thing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, I trust you. And then what was the name of that? Was it Toxin?
Yeah, Toxin.
Toxin leaps onto him.
The symbiote stuff.
One of the symbiotes leaps onto this dude.
Yeah.
And then the scene cuts and like, so what was the point
What
of
was the
that?
point?
You know?
It
The
was,
whole point of the Abraham Isaac story is that he doesn't kill Isaac. Is that
Yeah.
God doesn't actually make him kill Isaac.
Well,
That's the whole point.
Right in the scene, he didn't know that Isaac was going to die. He was saying, "Hey, you're going to be the first person to change human history," or something like this. I'm not sacrificing. He was basically trying to make the guy calm down so he could stick this thing on him.
And then he switches. Also, the final battle happened so fast. It was like
you can't see a single thing in that final
the
battle.
CGI was horrible.
It's a black blob fighting a gray blob at night. You can't see a single thing that's happening.
So for people who haven't seen this, the villain is Riot, which I didn't know. I didn't know.
I
Riot
never
was
heard of Riot.
Yeah.
I'm a Marvel guy. And
I think that rings a bell for me. But anyways.
Yeah. So he's the villain, and that's played by. I mean, Riz Ahmed is the villain, and he embodies Riot. Or Riot embodies him, but. The battle happened so fast. It was just like, and then you couldn't tell who was who, and the CGI was horrible.
Well, and none of them are really good fighters. They just smack each other around, and then Venom essentially loses. He stabs Tom Hardy in the chest, which doesn't do anything because we've already established that once Venom gets on him, he can heal him.
He can heal him
for some reason.
Yeah.
So when that happens, eventually Venom's like, "All right, whatever," and they cut. For some reason, they're in a rocket. Also, again, I'm going to keep referencing the Funhouse Filmhouse review they did of this because they made so many good points in that. Okay, so in the real world, this movie allegedly takes place in a version of the real world.
Yeah.
So with NASA and SpaceX, it takes months, if not years, to prep for a space shuttle launch.
Yeah.
These guys is like, get the rocket ready in 15 minutes. It's like, really?
Oh,
no.
and
So they launch this rocket. Venom essentially uses some kind of metal thing to cut the jet fuel out, and it hits the thrusters and blows the rocket up.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the battle.
Sounds pretty cool.
And then
it
that
happens
was
in,
one of the two things that can go against. Now in the comics, they always said that it was like loud ultrasonic noises that can hurt Venom because that was how Spider-Man got it off of him in all the movies.
Yeah.
They established, I think, in the writing, hey, fire hurts symbiotes because if they didn't say that, the ending wouldn't make any sense because he just blows up.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Oh my god. So how do you like the character design? How do you like how?
I think the character design looked fine on Venom.
Yeah.
I think Riot looked super generic.
Yeah.
But I think Venom's character design, they spent most of their budget on making sure he looked good.
Yeah.
I will say the shots where he's standing there still looks fine. Him in motion does not look very good.
It doesn't look. Also, the cheesy parts where his head just only so. He's trying to speak to Tom Hardy, and his only Venom's head is like perched out of his.
That did not look good.
Perched out of his chest. Yeah, that didn't look good at all. I was like, this is bad.
And the one shot, there's like two shots I really liked. The one where he's holding the one henchman up and he like licks his face. You see it in all the trailers.
Yeah.
That shot looked good when it's close up, but when you see the light reflecting off of it, it doesn't look good.
It's such a Sony's like how glossy Venom looks. I feel like that's Sony animation.
It does feel like when I watch the trailers, it does really feel like a Sony Spider-Man movie.
What was the budget?
Which is a
on this
problem.
movie?
The budget was.
Well, and I guess
I think Rotten Tomatoes should tell you.
I don't think.
I don't know.
Well, another thing with this movie, and the other shot I was talking about, there's one where he's fighting a SWAT team, and that shot where his face comes through the smoke and he's got his tongue hanging out.
Oh my god.
That scene looked pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Should I mention should I mention the elevator scene where he's like jump off?
No, there's a lot of weird comedy in this movie. Like they're trying to be MCU, but the comedy doesn't make any sense. Like there's a shot where he's like, "Go ahead, jump out the window," and then Tom Hardy's just riding the elevator down.
Yeah, and then he calls him up.
Well, he calls him a word.
He calls him a word. He calls him the P word.
Yeah.
But so bad.
It's just
budget.
And one of the biggest problems they have with the movie is the lack of continuity.
Wait, no.
Like they'll establish something at the beginning, and again, Funhouse reference here. They'll say, "Oh, like there's continuity between like in a scene, but there's no continuity between those scenes."
Yeah.
So like another good example, James Bone was mentioned on that Funhouse podcast, where Riz Ahmed's character, when he lets out the symbiote to kill the female scientist that told.
I forget their name. That's unforgettable.
Yeah, I literally can't remember anything other than Eddie Brock, and I guess Anne was the name of his wife.
Yeah.
Or fiance, whatever she was. I can't even remember what she was.
Yeah,
but
that's how poorly written these characters were.
There's the scene where Riz Ahmed lets out the symbiote to kill the female scientist.
Yeah.
And he leaves it there on the floor, knowing that if these things are allegedly left exposed to oxygen for long enough, it'll kill them.
Yeah.
Allegedly, they never really stated that.
Yeah.
But
it was.
That, and then it cuts back later with 2 henchmen standing there, and he starts shouting, "Who did this?" And like, literally you left it sitting out. But the writers clearly just didn't remember that because there's almost no continuity between these scenes.
Yeah.
Nothing carries over or makes sense in
That's
this movie.
weird.
When you really sit down and think about, like, if we had the Blu-ray right here and we were watching it, scene by scene, if you really even start to think about it for long enough, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Also, another.
That's
error.
what they were counting on, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Another error, something they used in the trailer when he walks into the store at the end. This was at the very end. This is another clip they showed in the trailer that they used for the end of this movie. But he walks in the store, and it's daylight. There's daylight outside. When he walks out, it's completely dark.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't notice that, but somebody told me it was. And I was like, wow.
And during that scene, I hate when Sony does this. And this is twice now with their Marvel properties where they've shown the last shot of the movie in the trailer.
Yeah.
So you remember Amazing Spider-Man 2, that shot where Spider-Man flings the manhole cover at Rhino?
Yeah.
That's the final shot. It's in the trailer. That shot of the "We Are Venom" thing in the Mrs. Chan in the convenience store, ending of the movie.
Yep.
Why is that the end of the movie?
It's not the last shot, but it's the end of the movie. He says that, eats the guy, and then it just shows Eddie Brock walking out off into the sunset up like a sidewalk or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the end of the movie.
That doesn't sound like a very good ending.
Also, I hate how cheesy his title of the show is. The Eddie Brock show, or the Eddie Brock show, or whatever.
That scene, I cringed so hard. There's
the for like montage of the
and they show Eddie Brock being a reporter and like the intro to his TV show he has, and it goes like the Brock Report.
Nobody would watch that.
No, it's. What makes it so bad is they try to tie in what he's reporting on to a real world issue. Yeah. So it's got like the resist flag and everything. I'm like, oh no, please. Yeah. There's literally a shot where Riz Ahmed's character says there's a lot of fake news out there. I was like, I'm like, please, no.
I was like, wow, okay, all right.
You could literally see the pain in Riz Ahmed's face when he said that. He was just like, oh, this line. Wow. This movie, it feels like a movie that would have been made 10 years ago, like before superhero movies were a big thing.
So it made its budget.
You mean it sounds like a Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie?
Oh, I mean it sounds like Daredevil and Ghost Rider.
Yeah,
like the old Daredevil movie.
So it made its budget back. Production budget was $100 million, and it domestically made $148 million. Worldwide, it made $385 million.
And that's just to date. It's still in theaters.
Yeah. So,
So there's not going to be a sequel.
No, there'll be a sequel. I'm sure
there'll be a sequel, and it'll be Woody Allen, or not Woody Allen.
Woody Allen, that'd be an interesting
Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson.
Woody Allen.
Maybe Woody Allen would be better as Carnage.
Honestly,
maybe
I
if
would
you wrote
rather
it.
see. Have you ever heard of the comic book storyline Maximum Carnage?
Yeah.
I'd rather just see an R-rated Maximum Carnage adaptation than a Venom 2.
I would be that.
With Woody Harrelson playing Carnage. That'll never happen because Maximum Carnage is a really, really messed up comic book.
Yeah.
But I would love to just see a Maximum Carnage R-rated adaptation, just completely removed from anything. Just have Carnage in it. Maybe, I guess because Venom's in that, you have Tom Hardy's Venom pop up in that. Yeah. And I guess the Spider-Man briefly pops up in that. You just cast the Spider-Man to pop up in there. It doesn't matter. It could be Andrew Garfield. You can do literally anybody. It doesn't matter. Just have its own, kind of like what they're doing with the Joker movie. Just a one-off about Carnage. It'd be cool.
I'd be down for that.
And my biggest
Are they really just doing a one-off Joker movie?
As far as we know. I don't really think WB even knows what they're doing with that movie, but that's a whole other conversation.
I don't buy that.
My biggest complaint with, see, Venom, if we had never gotten the MCU, the movie would just be generic okay.
Yeah.
Like, the scene, it's, compared to a lot of other blockbusters, it's better than a lot of the other garbage that's come out recently.
Yeah.
This film, it's what makes it, there is no excuse for movies like this nowadays. Because we've got movies like Infinity War only a few months ago that blew away all expectations and handled way more characters and way more difficult characters to handle in one movie.
Yeah.
There is no excuse for a movie like this nowadays. It's clearly just, it was made for a paycheck. The CGI on the budget that Ahmad just mentioned they had, there was no excuse for why the CGI looks as cheap and in some scenes bad as it does in this movie.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for the script that is completely lazy in this movie.
Yeah.
They could have made something fantastic, and instead they made one of the most mediocre movies.
So this is something we're gonna have to end soon. but they did cut 30 to 40 minutes of this movie.
And I am sure there's going to be a Blu-ray extended cut.
Yeah, I'm nigh positive that there's a good movie that they legitimately just cut out.
Which
because
would not be the first time that's happened.
Yeah.
Not necessarily with, this is the first time it's happened with Sony, but WB has done that with DC numerous times.
Yeah.
Batman vs. Superman, the extended cut of that is much better than the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
And Watchmen, same thing, even though the theatrical cut's not that bad. But
you see, even with 34 minutes or whatever of extra time, I don't know how if those of that added time would even help the film.
I have no idea.
After what I've saw.
I am
There's
legitimately
no
curious
telling.
how they're
I
going to
just-
be able to do that, because the pacing already moves. Like, it's
all over the place.
choppy, and the scenes lack any continuity. Maybe those scenes they add back in give more continuity.
That's what I suspect almost. Is
Yeah.
if you chop down the 30 to 40 minutes to 10 to 20 minutes of unused footage, maybe those scenes fill in some of the gaps. Maybe there's a reason that he's specifically going, "Who did this?" when it was him that did it, right? Like,
Well, there's
maybe
also
a reason
another
there.
logic question with it too that can't be solved by more scenes. Like, for example, in the movie, their whole thing of why they keep killing so many homeless people is because they're trying to find a suitable human who can bond with the symbiotes.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is able to bond with them.
Yeah.
So they're going through person after person after person because it's allegedly really difficult to find somebody who matches. Meanwhile, when Riot crashes in Malaysia and is trying to make his way back to California for like different cuts of the movie.
Yeah.
And it seems like every place he goes is like, found one, and he just keeps hopping.
Yeah.
He hops from some astronaut to a paramedic to an old woman to a little girl to finally Riz Ahmed.
Yeah.
All within the course of the movie.
Yep.
Also, there's a weird 6-month time jump in like the very beginning of the movie. It's really weird.
That is weird.
Also,
man.
the other thing with logic is Venom's like, you're the first person they've been able to match with this good, as he's also paired with a dog, and surprise, Lady Venom appears when Venom bonds with Tom Hardy's wife's character, well, not his wife's character, the character of his wife, for like a scene so that Venom can get back.
Such
to,
an awkward they kiss and it's so
Lady Venom kisses regular human Tom Hardy, and it is uncomfortable.
it's uncomfortable to watch. Yeah.
Also, the way that
They get back together so easily. It's like, what?
Also, the way they like accentuate her form in that costume is
that's why I'm like, it's pretty sad.
It is weird. Like they really accentuate her.
It's
Yeah.
like wow.
It's
That's
weird. Now maybe they're trying to make her look like, because there is I believe a character called Lady Venom in the comics,
Yeah.
or like a female Venom character in the comics.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So maybe they were just trying to make her look like that character from the comics.
Yeah.
So if it was that, I can forgive that, because at least they're trying to make it. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
they were trying to make her look like that.
And you could put this on the
So
screen.
sorry,
put it on
just
now.
like
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Or
man,
Ahmad,
it's really
Ahmad, wow.
accentuated. Wow.
Yeah, that's that's weird.
I get they were trying to make her look like that, but at the same time, it felt so out of place in the movie.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, here's a reference for you comic book fans.
Yeah.
And then it just completely disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
So-
they never explain why humans... See, I could go on about things they don't explain forever. They never explain why humans can turn into, like, the Venom, like, 7-foot-tall creature.
Yeah.
But when symbiotes bond to animals, why they can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, how come when Venom bonded with that dog, we didn't get a dog symbiote
Yeah.
thing? That would have been kind of cool to see.
It would have been cool, but they didn't.
They just didn't do it.
No, and they also a symbiote bonds with like a rabbit in one scene. I'm like, we're not gonna get any explanation for that.
Yeah,
Like
it was so bad.
the biggest sin of this movie is the fact that there's little to no explanation or continuity in any scene.
In any scene, yeah.
Nothing makes any sense when you sit down logically and think about it.
And I regretted paying the ticket. And I also bought the $6 cup that came with it. I also
so did
regretted.
I.
mean,
Did you
it
go to
was-
the Woodland Mall?
Yeah,
same.
I got the. I refilled it with as much. So I wanted to get my money's worth out of it, but
It was like
I threw it
the
away.
movie, when you sit down. Oh, I don't know about you, Ahmad, for this, but when I sat down and just turned my brain off, I had a good time.
I mean, I feel like that's what most people did. They turned their brains off. I mean, it's a movie that it's a popcorn thriller, and it's not meant to be taken.
That's what I
seriously.
hear.
That Tom Hardy is the only saving grace of this movie. Riz Ahmed I like, but
Yeah.
he is just phoning it in the entire time.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy at least tried and gave something unique to it. If it wasn't for Tom Hardy is the one step away this movie is from being essentially as bad as the Transformers movie.
I did enjoy the scenes. I'm sorry we're going long on this, but I did enjoy the scenes where he sort of getting used to the Venom and everything, and the voices in his head.
Him talking to Venom in his head. That stuff is great.
Yeah, that was.
I wanted more of that, and just less of the stuff with his wife.
Yeah,
they should have cut everything with the wife.
He should have just never had a relationship. I don't know.
There is no reason for that. Also, the reason,
or save the relationship for Venom 2.
No, it's
and the reasoning for why Venom, spoilers again, for why Venom wants to stay on Earth, they give you 2 separate reasons, but it's probably because the writers forgot about what they wrote earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
Like allegedly, he's like, I think he says like I'm a loser like you, Eddie. I don't want to go back to my planet. And later on, he says, "Oh, I like Earth. I'm going to stay here for a while." You changed me, Eddie.
Yes.
Did you forget what you wrote 30 minutes ago?
Yes.
Like
that's a good point.
I changed that.
That's why it was so freaking.
So I think that's a good place to end our discussion on Venom. Is there anything that you guys just have to get out right now?
It sucks.
It sucks.
It sucks, but it's a fun time.
It's a fun time.
And I don't recommend paying the $8 ticket price, but catch it at a matinee if you like comic book movies.
$5, worth it.
Okay, cool. So, let's get on to TV.
Oh, this is going to be a conversation. We have a whole hour and 55 minutes to discuss that. Oh, no, 55 minutes, not an hour. I was going to say, okay.
We can go as long as we want.
Yes.
And as long as I can still catch my bus.
Yeah. This might theoretically be either the longest or the shortest episode of the series.
Yeah,
so far.
We might just end at 30 minutes. Who knows?
Yeah. This would be the first time we've ever hit an hour and a half.
That'd be crazy.
Maybe if we actually start.
So the death of Cable.
Well, it's not dead.
In its current form.
In the dying of Cable.
I think that I think there are plenty of things that qualify as the death of something while it's still dying. There are plenty of stories that are told about this.
So we should first discuss the advent of streaming services and how that was sort of a decline.
So
for
fact checker here, when did Netflix first start streaming?
Yeah. I believe it is 08. 08.
Yeah, I mean.
So when did they do DVDs?
I believe so.
When did they start DVDs?
I think it was before that.
They 05? Something like that?
They started streaming 2002.
2002?
Wait, it's got to be DVDs.
Okay, 2007.
I was going to say, we didn't have the infrastructure in 2002 to do that.
I was going to say,
hold on.
Holy Lord. That would have been crazy.
We'll have to cut this out.
Wait.
Figure it out.
Just look at the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
Timeline of Netflix. Quick.
Yeah.
Starts out.
Don't worry.
They get founded in 1997. 2006 is when they. Oh, so.
This is when they're.
That's when.
No, they're.
So they existed for a decade without doing.
Well,
anything.
before then, because they had the DVD,
Well, DVD didn't. DVD
so they announced their streaming video service in 2007, and it didn't launch.
I think 2010 is when they started the.
That seems about right.
Online. Or here it is.
Well, that's when
2011 announces the launch of its own.
That's Voodoo.
Oh, wow.
Voodoo's Walmart. Walmart owns Voodoo. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's like around
2007. 2007.
They announced it.
Streaming video.
Yeah. And then in February they delivered their billionth DVD.
Yeah.
And then
2000. Oh, yeah.
Oh, and that same February I think is when they launched.
So 2007. I don't think they really took off until 2010. I think.
Yeah, I think.
I would say with this conversation we're having here, I do think that broadcast TV will still survive. I think services like PlayStation Vue, DirecTV Now.
Yeah.
I think
you're right
some
about
people
that.
who, because when it comes to news and sports and weather and all that, I think that's still going to exist, and you're still going to have your big 3 networks. I think in the typical sense of you have a long-term contract, having a box or a satellite installed at your house, in having to deal with cable companies on the phone for hours, I think those days are dying.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think if cable wants to survive, they've got to do this no hassle thing. Like currently, my family has DirecTV Now. Essentially, we have it as technically as our cable because you can bundle that with AT&T phone and internet together. So that's what we currently did.
Oh.
But DirecTV Now, you don't have to be an AT&T customer to have it. You can pay I think it's like $40 a month for the smallest package, where you get literally every mainstream channel except, I believe, ESPNU. I think is the only thing you don't get as part of that. That's also not counting HBO Go or Cinemax or anything.
Yeah.
But you get all the main channels there, and you could stream it on any, I believe it's 2016 or later streaming box. So an Apple TV, a Roku, Fire Stick, any of that. And I think the only thing you can't do it on is they do not have an app on PlayStation or Xbox or Switch. But
nothing has an app on Switch.
Any streaming box you can get this app on.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the future is you're just going to say, people, you can buy whatever box you want, put whatever apps you want on it to watch the content you want. The days of, well, you got to make sure you have this, we'll install this box, and you can't mess with it, you don't have to put a satellite on your roof, those days are dying.
Yeah.
I think you're right about that.
That's cool, because we learn in film history that with the advent of TV, sort of movies had a decline, and they had to come up with like Cinescope and Panorama and stuff like that.
Different ways of getting people to.
Yeah,
well, I would argue that the streaming has had a worse effect on film than television has.
I mean, I would agree.
The internet is simultaneously the greatest and the worst thing to happen to film. It's great because now indie filmmakers can distribute their film to many more people at much less of a cost. But the other side of that is piracy has become a much bigger problem. And all of a sudden people were like, why do I need to go to the movie theater when I can just wait for it to come out on Netflix?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you had Black Panther that came out on Netflix like 4 months, 5 months?
Blu-rays and then eventually the streaming version of it come out literally about at the earliest 4 months after the movie comes out in theaters.
So I mean, this is a television discussion, but I think movies are in a different place though, because I think the fact is there's nothing that replaces seeing Thanos on big screen.
Oh, I agree, but there are still, as film, the three of us being film majors, I completely agree with that. I do think though, however, because I remember, I'm not in high school anymore, but when Infinity War was coming out, I remember talking to a lot of people saying, I'll just wait until it comes out on Netflix. It's only going to be 4 months anyway. Yeah. Like a lot of people who are just saying, why do I want to go to the theater, pay this price for a bunch of kids in there to be talking, to be loud, go out and do all this when I can just wait and watch it on my TV? Which I completely was baffled by hearing that. I'm like, seriously, the biggest movie in probably a decade you're just going to not watch?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's interesting because I think this is one of the best years for films as well. I mean, movies... I think
at least financially.
Financially, yes, but I mean, if you look at the money movies have made, like Black Panther, Infinity War.
Who owns those movies?
Buena Vista or Disney,
Well, Disney's not even done with this year yet. They still got Nutcracker and isn't there another big one?
Mary Poppins.
And Wreck-It Ralph.
Is Mary Poppins this year?
Oh yeah, that's Christmas.
Yeah, so they're not done, and they pretty much own the industry.
I mean, I'll tell you right now that. Mary Poppins is going to dominate.
Oh,
it is going to.
It is.
Mary Poppins. I think Disney just had a killer lineup this year, except for Star Wars.
Well, yeah.
Well, which one? Last Jedi.
No, Solo.
Solo.
Solo's not bad.
Last Jedi, I think, broke records.
Last Jedi was last year too.
Solo did as poor as it did. I know this is way off what we were talking about, but I'm surprised of how killer of a year Disney's had that Solo did as poorly as it did. It by no means flopped, but it did not do as big as numbers as Rogue One. I think
that just speaks to the fact that audiences aren't stupid.
Well,
everybody thinks that they are, and they aren't. They don't.
And then Venom comes out and makes $80 million, and it shows audiences aren't that.
Well, but the Amazing Spider-Man movies made a lot of money, right? So a lot of people, and I think a lot of people like those movies. So
I do also think a big chunk of this is it coming out 6 months after Last Jedi. And I do think it's also, as much as I don't like to get involved with the whole volatile Lucasfilm Star Wars community, I do think part of it is the backlash of The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, the first three films, the top three films of this year so far are owned by Disney. Yeah. Incredibles 2, Black Panther, and
Incredibles 2 is
number 3, or Incredibles 2 is number 3. 607.
I was going to say Infinity War has to be number 1.
Yeah. Black Panther is number 1 right now.
Oh, and Infinity War didn't pass it?
No, it didn't pass it.
It was
close to it.
Well, it did come close. Well, then again, yeah. So it was real close.
Yeah, really close.
Black Panther got a lot of people who wouldn't have gone to see
Yeah.
a superhero movie.
Well, Black Panther was also in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was surprising.
Yeah. So cable.
Yeah, cable. I think when it comes to cable, I think, like I was saying, the internet has been able to bring television to the masses who can watch any episode they want, whenever they want, without any commercial interruptions.
Yeah.
You're just paying a monthly fee and not having to worry about contracts, just stop it whenever you want.
Cable cutters.
Yeah.
I do
Essentially,
think-
you can just say, like, oh, the new season of Daredevil's out. Let me subscribe for a month, watch it, and I'll just renew again when I want, when there's a show I want to watch.
Yeah. I think that's definitely something that's happening. And I also think we're starting to see the decline of network TV, like, story-driven shows.
Quality of network TV. For sure.
I think the CW superhero shows are sort of the last gasp, I think.
Well,
I don't think they are the last gasp.
the
but I
only
think
other
they're
like
part
major
of it.
ones you've got, like, This Is Us does big.
Yeah.
But really, the only other major shows I can think of that are on, like, a basic cable package, it's cop dramas, like medical dramas, and family dramas.
I just pulled up
they're all dramas,
Other than children's cartoons, which is a separate.
Yeah,
and
but
obviously
children's
your
cartoons
sports.
are all like they're sort of their own thing.
They're sort of, and also most of them are reruns.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
Previous things.
really, like my younger cousins and all I ever see them is just watching reruns on Netflix. I don't ever say it's really just when there's new episodes on, like, PBS in the morning.
Yeah.
And I don't have part of it for me at least is I don't have time to catch particular shows at exact times on cable. I don't have that time. So with Netflix, you could watch it whenever you want to.
The one
I
thing
think
I
you're
do
right.
dislike with the whole streaming thing is that there is no security in terms of preservation of these television
They
shows.
pull them off and take them off whenever.
Yeah. Like, Netflix
I
can
think, yeah.
say, oh, our deal
I
with this
totally
company
agree.
is gone. They disappear.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, indicative also of the death of physical media, too, which, as much as I love my Blu-ray and DVD collection, by the end of the next decade, that is no longer going to be a thing.
Yeah, which means that we have to find a way to get
Maybe.
everything on the internet. Otherwise, we're gonna lose tons
Everything needs
of
to be on
stuff.
the internet, and they also need to find a way for one service, a unified service that has everything on it. They need to cooperate.
Yeah.
Because you go to Walmart, it's not like, oh, sorry, Walmart only carries Disney Blu-rays or vice
Yeah.
versa. You need to have one unified storefront that carries every studio's
Yeah, and
films.
then you could have like different subscriptions.
Yes.
That's
Right.
what's-
I think that definitely works. I just think
The closest to that is Amazon Prime.
yeah, the closest to that is which Amazon's gonna take over the world, so who cares anyways, right?
Amazon and Disney are the next world.
Oh
leaders.
man, if Disney buys Amazon, they are actually gonna be a dictatorship.
Well, I mean, except for Google. Google still has a lot of power, too.
Yeah.
But
It'll be just Disney versus Google.
But I just looked up the top.
we're just living in the middle of
I just looked up the 10 best shows on TV right now, and
They're
none
all
of
streaming.
these are
Let me take a
recognizable.
look at them here.
None of the, I mean, I've never heard The Handmaid's Tale. Is
That's on
something I've
Hulu.
heard.
Yeah.
Most of them are streaming, and the other.
Yeah,
half
those
is-
are all streaming.
Yeah.
Except I think
So-
the only other one that wasn't was like The Americans is on FX.
Yeah.
It's the only other thing I can see. And I guess Chris is on True TV, the Chris Cathard show.
Yeah.
But, like, most narrative dramas that are popular, with the exception of This Is Us, are all premium services or they're streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most people nowadays, is it true that I believe HBO Go you can get standalone outside of a cable package now?
Yeah. I mean.
I think HBO has a a separate app now.
No, they have HBO Go.
My understanding is we also get HBO Go for free.
Yeah.
As college students.
As college students.
BG lore.
Yeah. We've talked about that before, haven't we?
No, actually we haven't.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, remember I cut that whole thing out?
Yeah. Oh, did you cut it out?
Well, most of it.
Okay. Well, you can keep this in, I guess.
I
Well, long story short, before I don't want to hog up too much of the airtime here, but I do think that if we're going to go all digital in the future, there needs to be one unified storefront where, and they can't just be pulling stuff off every other week. I think if you want to do there should be two separate things, like how they've got it currently on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
You can say, hey, if you pay for the Prime service, you can
You get like this
amount
batch
a month.
of
You get to
stuff.
watch all this content for this price a month, or if you don't want to pay that month to month, you can just buy these digital movies and you get to keep them. What I don't like, however, is turning over everything, because essentially when you're buying that, you're not buying a physical file or a copy of anything.
Yeah.
You're buying a license to view that file.
Yeah.
That is what worries me, because I don't trust these massive media companies to say, oh, you know what? We don't like this anymore. We're just going to pull it off. We'll give you your money back or something like that. I don't like that, because eventually some massive thing could come out. Say with all this Me Too stuff.
Yeah.
As much as I disagree with the stuff's happening with these actors, I still think film and television should be preserved and should not disappear.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a lot of classic films. There's a lot of bad stuff in classic films that socially isn't relevant nowadays, but we still keep those films alive because they're part of history.
Yeah.
I don't want one day this actor to be like, oh, this actor did something. All of their content is pulled from Netflix and it disappears forever.
Yeah.
I do not want that to happen, and that worries me with
That's
the
wrong.
internet. Yeah, I don't trust that the only source of cataloging and preservation of these films and television is on Netflix. Think about Daredevil, for example. Outside of the few like limited run Blu-rays they have of that show, Netflix is the only place that show is preserved.
There were limited run Blu-rays of Daredevil?
Definitely of season 1. I don't know about season 2, but definitely season 1.
I would have bought that.
Well, there also is of Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and I don't know about Iron Fist, but yeah.
Anyways, sorry, that's...
I was surprised. So I think you bring up something really interesting. I think my biggest issue is that right now there's a dispute going on about whether or not all of these media companies like Google, Facebook, Netflix, all of these things that we basically use day to day, whether or not they are platforms or publishers and they're the base, and this is mostly a political fight because you have, just to sort of paraphrase, you have right-wingers who think that Facebook and Google and Twitter are all censoring them, and you have Facebook, Twitter, and Google all basically saying, like, look, we can do whatever we want, we're a private company. And so the argument is, the legal battle has been, are they publishers so that they have to be honest about what they're doing, or are they platforms where anybody can just say anything, right? And this has been, and so I think part of the issue that you bring up is being a platform like Netflix. Like, I think there's definitely an issue where the licensing deal goes out and suddenly that movie is just not there anymore. And maybe it's not on iTunes or like another platform. Maybe I have literally no other legal way to watch that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, actually no legal way of watching it. I would have to pirate it to watch it. I have a huge issue with that because like everybody says like, oh, don't pirate. Like, I don't pirate basically on principle, but if I can't do something legally, what's to stop somebody like me from just going ahead and pirating it, right? Like, there's no like...
Well, I think what there needs to be, and I know this is a lot more difficult than it sounds, but there needs to be cooperation between the companies. There needs to be, hey, Netflix and all their Marvel shows, there needs to be eventually a way of saying, hey, make sure these shows... Well, I know everybody needs their exclusive shows to say, pay for this service, because if Hulu and Netflix have no original shows, what's other than the price going to be the difference between what
this
you
has
do?
This has been the whole console argument, right? Is like, my argument has always been that what PlayStation and Xbox should do is have a unified console that they basically have the same OS, or maybe not the same OS, but like the same infrastructure. No exclusives. You could play Uncharted on your Xbox 5 or whatever it is. And no exclusives, and the only battle is for who has the better hardware, right? That's the only battle. And it's worked out for like Blu-ray player manufacturers, right? Like it doesn't
worked out for DVD.
Yeah, so like I just think I think the problem is that right now we're in this space where streaming services are so caught up in the pure competition of it all that they don't see the big picture yet. Maybe in like 20 years, right, we'll have a unified streaming platform, or we'll have a unified storefront, or whatever it happens to be, right? And all it matters is that you have the hardware, right? But right now, I think you're definitely right that the problem is that it's all down to these media companies just basically being gatekeepers and deciding like what gets through.
The problem is at the same time of if we're not going to get a unified streaming platform probably within the next 20 years, how many films and television shows are we going to lose in that 20-year period because we're just essentially forgetting anything that's not on
seriously I legitimately buy like your Teen Titans, your Avatar: The Last Airbender, like all of these Blu-rays that you want to make sure. Like I think my biggest thing that I could say to anybody listening, my biggest piece of advice when it comes to this topic in particular, is whatever you love, like legitimately love, make sure you have it.
Seinfeld.
Yeah, exactly.
Teen
Make
Titans.
sure you have Seinfeld.
Yeah, and keep in mind, a lot of these these older shows, like you bring up Seinfeld, they're not necessarily preserving them either when they're getting brought over to the streaming. Like, I don't know if you've heard about this with Seinfeld, but originally when they were shot in a 4:3 aspect ratio.
Yeah.
When they, and most modern audiences, because they don't really understand aspect ratios, were like, I don't want the black bars on the side of my screen. So when they made their first debut on streaming on Hulu, they zoomed it in and cut off the sides for modern 16:9 televisions.
I'm shaking my head because that's a horrible idea.
Yes. So they cropped it so they could fit the full screen. So it is, when you watch side by side the original broadcast of Seinfeld and then watch the Hulu streaming of it, they are different images because it's been zoomed in. There's one shot where maybe a character was like almost out of frame on the side staring at Jerry or Kramer or something.
You just don't see him.
But you don't see them now because it's zoomed in. So now that joke, it doesn't make any sense because it was on the side of the frame.
And I'm sure there are plenty of shots where Jerry Seinfeld's head is cut off.
Oh, part of it is.
Right?
And there's also things where he'll reach out a frame to grab something, but you won't see it because it's no longer in frame.
Wow.
And
that news frustrates me so much.
Seinfeld was the biggest one for that, but there are other shows out there that have done that, and a lot of classic films that's happened to as well.
As an editor, that frustrates me.
I believe
so much.
that also happened with Ben-Hur, the 1950s Ben-Hur, and I know there's a lot of westerns that's happened to. Like if you just look up like aspect ratio cropping or something like that, there are plenty of TV shows that do that. And I get it. I don't like black bars on the side of my screen either, but I would much rather have the original image as the makers intended it to be than have a cropped version of it. And that's why never buy an older DVD that says full screen. Full screen DVDs are because they've zoomed in and cropped it. Widescreen DVDs is its original, at least as best as we can get it, original aspect ratio. That's why, like my grandparents, for example, they say they hate the black bars, is what they call it. But I basically told them the last time before move-in day, I'd rather have the black bars because what full-screen DVDs mean is that you're not getting the original image. They've zoomed and cut off the sides. You're not getting the full image.
Wow, I am incredibly frustrated when you talk about that. Not because of you, but because of these movies.
That is what worries me about streaming services. Is because they pander to pretty much the largest common denominator they can get of trying to please everybody and be as modern as they can. When they get these classic shows that they know people like I'm sure Friends, when they put Friends on Hulu or Netflix or whatever it is, they probably do the same thing.
I think that didn't happen.
Did it not happen?
Actually, I think the Cosby Show kept them. Cosby Show. We've talked about this. But when I was watching it, I think it kept the black bars too. I think Star Trek The Next Generation, which I'm never going to talk about on this podcast, You guys know I've been saying I'm going to talk about this TV series for the longest time, but anyways, Star Trek Next Generation I think keeps the black bars on streaming services, and Babylon 5. There are plenty of examples.
There are plenty that do, but how long is that going to remain? That's my question, because that's with everything going streaming and being the primary platform.
I'm gonna die when that happens. I'm gonna actually I'm glad it's not gonna happen in the next 3 years, because there's too much I need to do in these next 3 years. Because I'm gonna pass away when that happens. I'm just gonna drop dead and die.
Yikes.
I'm gonna because I'm just gonna die of frustration. Because it's just
We also need to remember that this streaming is in its infancy. There is.
It's literally 10 years old.
Yeah, there is literally... this is unprecedented, and there's going to be a lot of growing pains. And what makes me nervous is this has happened with video games before, too. How many PC games do you think we've lost that we don't even realize we've lost yet because there was no cataloging system for preserving those old cartridges that we have?
And
or because,
do you really want to keep E.T.?
Do I really think it's a good game? No. Should it be preserved? Absolutely. Because... there is just as much incentive to preserve E.T. as there is to preserve The Room.
Yeah. Sure.
Regardless, though, back on the whole cable thing.
Yeah.
I think cable itself, as in terms of cable box or satellite television, is going to be dead.
Yeah.
The only way that broadcast television will survive is through a live streaming cable service like a DirecTV Now or PlayStation.
Speaking of preserving Seinfeld,
get the box
set. $90 for what? 7 seasons of TV.
Yeah,
also, make sure you look at the publishing date because some of the DVD box sets have the cropped versions as well.
Oh no!
No,
you're not safe.
It's the original DVDs that didn't have it cropped. If the DVD set came out after the debut on Hulu, then it's cropped.
Wow.
Just look up Seinfeld crop.
I'm okay with movies that will, or whatever, that will literally adapt the aspect ratio. That they'll just take the original image and reshape it so that they can fit it into a 16:9. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with just a raw zoom in
cut.
And cut. That's dumb. That's legitimately the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's just to appease people who know nothing about film.
No, that's not true. It's not legitimately that. It is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
It's to appease those who do not know a whole lot about film. Because to a general audience, they're just going to stare at the screen and just whatever is shown to them will be shown. You are literally destroying the image that cinematographers worked on.
Well, not just that, but I feel like if people just pay attention to what's going on, at some point you stop noticing the black screen. I certainly have had that experience several times where I rewatched season 1 of Teen Titans this past weekend, and I hardly noticed that it was a black screen.
Another example here, if we're acknowledging this with social media, when you're scrolling through Instagram, watching Instagram videos, do you see the top bars and the bottom, or do you focus on the video?
Yeah.
You focus on the video. You don't acknowledge the bars on the top and the bottom.
Yeah, it's just people who are nitpicky, and they're like, I don't really like the black screen. I'm like, hey, shut up for 10 minutes
and
focus on the movie, and then if 10 minutes passes and it really bothers you, we can try to fix it.
And I understand that, and maybe if you really don't like it, there is a way to go onto your TV and zoom in manually on your TV to make it better. What I do not like is that making that the only available version to be preserved and watched.
Yeah.
As of right now, unless you find the older DVDs, the only version of Seinfeld available is the cropped versions.
Give people options.
Yeah. And that goes into a complete tangent, but I gotta say this too here. I hope Disney listens about this. The fact that the special editions, or the 2011 cuts of Star Wars, are the only preserved version that you can see outside of the original cuts, that needs to change.
Hey, to be completely fair, those were made before Disney bought the license, and those are the most recent ones that they've put out, right? So it makes sense. It makes sense from my perspective when I'm looking at their thought process. Oh, these are the most recent ones that they've put out. they probably got Star Wars and they were like, boom, we're gonna release it on every which thing. We're gonna take the most recent cut, whatever that is, and we're gonna do bada bing bada boom, and we're gonna put it on everything.
Yeah.
And we're gonna make it cheap.
Well, it does make. Well, it's not cheap. I can tell you, it's
we're gonna
not
make
cheap.
We're gonna make it cheaper.
Yeah. It's
right,
I believe
like
$100 for the first 6 movies on streaming.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that doesn't surprise me.
I can buy all
saying,
7 Saw movies on DVD and Blu-ray for about $8.
But is Saw a mega franchise?
Yeah, they had one every year since 2004.
That doesn't make it a mega franchise.
I mean, it's a franchise.
Yeah, it's a franchise.
It's a franchise.
It's not
a mega
culturally significant like Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, that's arguable because some people think it is.
Well, the first one is, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Regardless, Cable.
Well, so I think this actually sort of proves our point almost. We
Yeah.
didn't have that much to say about the death of Cable,
Yeah,
right?
it's-
But I think we all agree that it makes perfect sense. You just look at the whole situation.
That's why I mentioned the sort of film and TV. It makes sense.
Yeah. Like no one, like we're college students, as you've probably guessed numerous times. I can't think of a single college student I've met at this campus so far who actually acknowledges that they have their own cable that's not paid for by their parents, like a streaming cable service.
Or that's something free provided by the college itself.
Yeah, like we get a free
we have
cable,
free cable
provided by the
And they only
university.
use the cable access they have for sports. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that's big. That's
I have only used my access that I get for cable, so I have a subscription to HBO Go.
Yeah.
That is the only thing I've used it for.
Hey, you know what? Just to bring this around, for the first 8 weeks of The Flash 2 years ago, I think it was season 2, 2016. No, maybe it was probably season 3.
You were a freshman.
Either way, when I was a freshman, I tried to watch The Flash because it was my favorite show on television. It's sort of shifting. I don't know. Anyways, I couldn't figure out how to do the 16:9 ratio. So you know what I did? I sucked it up and I watched it in 4:3. And you know what? It's just as good in 4:3.
Yeah. Was
Right?
It,
Like
was it standard def or was it just 4:3?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Probably standard def because I don't think that they do.
Yeah.
I guess they probably didn't shoot it in standard def, so I can't imagine that they would just broadcast.
I will say I do not like watching in standard def anymore. I will if it does not have a high definition transfer.
Yeah.
But
if I don't know the difference, I don't mind.
Yeah. But if I've already seen the Blu-ray and I have to go back to watching the DVD, I will notice, especially if you're going back for an older movie. Like if I watch the Mad Max: The Road Warrior on like a VHS or a DVD copy and then watch it next to the Blu-ray restoration, I can most definitely tell.
Cool.
Yeah.
But it's cable.
It's worrying.
It's definitely worrisome. And no, I don't know, Bob, what are your thoughts on this thing, on the whole death of cable streaming thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's due time. I mean, streaming has been popular and for a long time, and like the points I mentioned earlier, I don't have time to watch cable.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I mean, it's only I guess in the summer that's when I'm really free. But and that's just after I'm home from work and I'm just tired and I just plop down and watch.
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean,
but it's mostly reruns. I mean, it's easily accessible, and that's the major thing for me.
Yeah,
But like going sort of summarizing the points of the discussion, that's one aspect that it's easily accessible, but it is frustrating that they're very kind of biased as to what they have on the streaming services, because something I do want to watch is most likely than not on
Teen Titans,
by Netflix.
not on Netflix.
There's we kept going back to this, but there needs to be a unified platform.
Yeah.
You know what would actually get me to buy DC's streaming service? I just thought of this and I have to mention it. If they actually put like a 16:9 version of the Teen Titans cartoon on there.
Yeah,
I'd actually like
I'm
watch
surprised
it.
it's not already on there.
Yeah. You have to let me.
That's
borrow
right, they launched it already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring it to the
Wait,
lab
it
tomorrow.
launched?
Yeah, because I think Titans premiered.
Is it week to week or dropping all at once?
It's week to week.
Oh,
I
interesting.
think.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
they're
that.
yeah.
Well, that's right.
I don't know why they're doing week to week.
That's right.
That doesn't make
my
any sense.
My brother told me about this. Yeah.
But the
Is it? Did it launch?
Yeah, I mean, my
pretty sure it
brother
launched.
told me he got the he actually started watching Titans.
This shows how big the streaming services were. Like, did it launch? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It shows how big it is.
My prediction is 6 months this DC thing goes, and then Titans is on Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh, I would
It's
be
like-
surprised if eventually Titans I think what I'd be totally okay with is if there was a platform like currently I use the Vudu service,
Sure, yeah.
VUDU. I use that because my family does have a subscription to Netflix and Amazon Prime, and through the university I get HBO Go, but
it did.
for most movies that when I can't find it available on DVD or Blu-ray, I'll buy it on Vudu, or if I absolutely have to, Prime Video.
Yeah.
That being said, I think Netflix doesn't always cooperate on this, but I know Amazon does, and I know Hulu does in most cases. That if all of these streaming services eventually said, hey, if you want to pay a monthly price for streaming our shows, you can only stream our originals here on our service. But if you don't want to pay the month-to-month contract, you can buy the entire season on Vudu for a set price, and we'll get half that profit. I think that, and you just have to wait 6 months or maybe 3 to 4 months after it's released on Netflix before it goes on the Vudu.
I'd be okay with that.
Like, if they said, hey, Daredevil premieres October 2018 on Netflix streaming,
In 2
and then
days.
in January 2019 it'll pop up on
iTunes.
Vudu and iTunes, and you can buy it already on there.
That'd be cool.
Like that, and I know they do that with some shows on Netflix. Like, I believe Daredevil has that. I believe. I'm not totally sure. And I know they did that with the Star Wars Clone Wars Lost Missions. That's on. You can buy that pretty much everywhere now. But I think that's what they need to do in the future.
Yeah.
Is have all these
There's
streaming
our
services
solution.
say, hey,
Yeah.
if you
We
want to
solved it,
stream
guys.
if you want to stream it, you can stream it on our service. 4 months later, you can buy the entire season on whatever platform.
Who'd
you
have
like.
thought 3 college students could just solve the woes of the streaming service market?
Companies just need to get along, man. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
I actually might get this DC streaming service just because.
How much is it?
I think my
$80 a year.
$80 a year. Never mind. Okay.
No, don't get it. Don't get it in protest.
I'll just buy the.
I legitimate. This is my thing, right? You feel free to disagree with me. I just think too many streaming services. Don't get this DC one. Don't get the new the Disney one.
Definitely don't get the CBS one.
Don't get the CBS one. Don't get any of the streaming services that are out right now.
Why?
Not even Netflix?
Well, no. Besides the big 3.
Netflix,
Besides,
Prime, and Hulu.
Netflix, Prime, Hulu.
I mean, I have a.
Don't get any other ones beyond that, because if you do, it tells whoever, like executives, that, oh, this is a good move. Look at how successful DC's streaming service is.
Yeah.
And what eventually will probably happen will be each of these individual studios will say, you know what, that's doing really well. Let's pull all of our content off of Netflix and make our own streaming service. So you're going to get your Universal Studios streaming service. You're going to get your Lionsgate streaming service.
Which I'm okay with on a sort of market-based level of like, I don't really want like duopolies and stuff. And so like, to some degree, I think it would be cool if literally everything had a streaming service for like $2 a month. I'd be okay with that because then I can choose. Like, I don't watch a lot of Universal movies, so.
But that's also counting NBC Universal, so your Sci-Fi Channel, your NBC, that stuff.
Yeah. So like. Yeah. I mean, it's complicated, right? So like, you can't just have what you want, which is why I think Netflix, Hulu, Prime, stick with those. I think I kind of hope that Avatar: The Last Airbender makes its way to Netflix because they're doing the live action one.
Yeah.
So
Don't
get whatever Nickelodeon is gonna do.
That's probably going to be through the Viacom, CBS, All Access thing.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
But
Frick.
my main complaint, eventually, if every studio does a service like that, somebody's going to come along, bundle those together, and essentially you're going to get cable. You're just going to bundle all these streaming services together, and you're going to buy an Apple TV, and you're going to have all these streaming services on it. It's just going to be cable all over again.
Inception.
Now,
Oh my god.
like I said, Honestly, I have no problem with every studio or network making their own streaming service as long as all the content is not locked to that service.
And it's reasonably priced.
So, for example, I'm like, cool, CBS All Access is CBS's new streaming platform. Cool. Just make sure Star Trek Discovery also comes onto Vudu and
Netflix,
Prime Video, Netflix, all that.
Yeah.
Or even not necessarily just for streaming. If they want to say you can only stream it for like a monthly service on CBS All Access, fine. But make it available for purchase on iTunes or Vudu or something like that.
I think a lot of services have been pretty good about
Most
that.
have done that. I know Hulu is good about that, and to a certain extent, Prime is good about that. But also
Netflix is not.
Netflix is not good about that, and Prime, it's tricky because on Prime Video you can also buy TV shows on there, so you can technically I count that because you can buy it.
Prime is like a whole different animal almost because it's sort of its own little ecosystem.
Yeah. Honestly, in terms of the content on there, I think Prime has probably the least quality content, like on average.
You mean
like,
original content?
Yeah, on original content. It has good ones, but like on average compared to the other services, it has the least quality content.
But they're making good stuff now.
They are making good stuff. Like, I heard Jack Ryan is okay.
Manchester by the Sea was
Mr. Robot's not
for
original.
tons of stuff.
Is it not?
No, it's on USA.
Is it?
Yeah. Why does it say original? Oh no, that's not. That's
Oh,
just
it's
available
Prime,
on Prime. Yeah.
But it's Manchester by the Sea that was an Amazon company though.
Like I think if honestly, even though they have the weakest originals, I think Amazon is doing it how I would like to have it be done. Is saying, hey, you can pay a monthly price and stream whatever you want, or you can just buy it on our service. That's how it should be done. You say you can stream anything you want on Netflix. Stream your Daredevil, your Luke Cages, your Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
But you wait 4 months and you can buy the entire season on iTunes. That's how it should be done.
That's how it absolutely should be.
And it's it needs to be that way, and people need to push these other studios to do this, because I do not want my only ever way to watch every modern show to be to subscribe to about 10 different services, which is going to cost the same, if not more, as what cable already did.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this up. Ahmad, I'll give you a chance to say something if you want to. But I will say, I do think having iTunes as the grandfather of all of this is a good thing, because Apple is really smart about its distribution.
Yeah.
Also, it's not a media company, it's a tech company. So like the fact that iTunes, for one thing, is on all computers, right?
Yeah, Windows and Mac.
Yeah. So like you can watch every movie that you have on iTunes on everything that you own. Also, there are a lot of things that, like, if you get I know Disney Movies Anywhere does the thing where if you have the movie on Disney Movies Anywhere, and your account is connected to Amazon and iTunes and stuff.
Oh, it's just called Movies Anywhere now. It's not Disney Movies Anywhere now. I had to correct that.
Oh no, dude! I'm not even on it.
But in any case, it will be on Amazon and iTunes. Like, it will show up as part of your profile. So I think that's cool. It's nice that everything sort of comes back to iTunes, and that iTunes is not making its own thing. And I'm sure they don't plan on. I know that there are some things where, like, Apple Music did the whole thing where it partnered with James Corden to do Carpool Karaoke as, like, sort of its own thing. So there are things like that happen, but, like, it's not... Apple is certainly not a media company, and it's really nice that they have basically the progenitor of streaming, of video streaming.
That might change soon, because they have announced that there's going to be original content coming to iTunes of, like, film and television, because they've got M. Night Shyamalan working on something for him, as well as, I believe, what's his face, Adam McKay, I believe, is working on something for him too, but it could be wrong.
You're killing my vibe, dude.
Yeah. Which is, I'm thinking, now that Movies Anywhere thing that you mentioned, I think that is an interesting thing to bring up as, like, what I was talking about, because I currently have that app, and you can link services to it.
Yeah.
So you can buy movies through Movies Anywhere, but you can link your Vudu account, iTunes, Prime Video, and I believe, even though it doesn't work, it's not a thing anymore, Flixster, all together, and all of those libraries of most studios will show up on your Movies Anywhere library. Wow. That being said, the only studios that do not show up on there, it's not every studio is getting along. MGM, Lionsgate, and Paramount did not cooperate with them, and so now none of their movies show up on the movies anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Weird.
So it's getting these companies to get along, and also that being said, last point here for me, it's not just film and television doing this now too, because music on Spotify and Apple, whatever it's called, is it Apple Music?
Well, that's very much like record company to record company and artist to artist.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like, for example, one of like Kanye West's albums was like The Life of Pablo or whatever. For a while, was exclusive only to Tidal or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, like these.
Tidal, yeah.
Those had exclusives, and now I think it's only a matter of time before PlayStation Now and Xbox Game Pass have exclusive games to those services.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So.
Well, to make the point, my last point, going off of
Final
that,
thoughts.
I think it's mostly the internet. The internet, I think, like you mentioned,
It
music.
all goes back to the internet.
Well, I mean, music, TV shows, movies, games. I mean, streaming makes these all forms of media more accessible. Therefore, things like CDs, cassette tapes. Obviously, cassette tapes was older, but CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, buying hard copy, like GameStop. We talked about GameStop. People aren't going to go to stores to buy these things. They're just going to want to buy them online.
Brick and mortar stores, in general, outside of like ways to get food, are not going to exist in the future.
Yeah. So
actually, you know what? It's been every game I bought since I came back to college has been a download game.
Yeah. So I mean, like I was trying to say.
And every game that comes out is a download game, no matter what. If anything, it's more rare for a game to be physical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than download.
I think this all
Which
started
is
with
indie games.
I mean, this all really we talked about Amazon. It all really started with Amazon and
Amazon, iTunes.
Amazon, iTunes, and the fact that you could buy a book online and stuff like that in the 90s. So it started there, and now it's become
And it's amazing to think that like the internet, only a few years ago, was very niche or didn't have a whole lot of the stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's taken a very short amount of time to explode as big as it has.
It's insane.
And it's still just in its infancy. It is still growing.
Yeah.
And it's almost scary how
it really is scary. You have access to so much media that you really don't know
and not just media, but information and content in general.
Yeah.
You literally have the world's information.
You have literally anything you could
The World Wide
in
Web
front of you.
in your
hands, which is why it's so
dangerous.
luring and dangerous. Yes. So I mean,
And the big thing, and I know this is not cable, but when it comes to technology, as we've got on with here, that's another big thing, is there needs to be cooperation between these companies. There needs to be, hey, you've got this software, it'll work on whatever. Windows already does that from computer to computer. Android already does that from phone to phone. Apple is the only holdout. Eventually, there's going to be you have this software, you can transfer it to any device. Apple needs iTunes is the only thing they have, I believe, that can transfer from multiple different types of hardware.
Yeah.
Apple is the last remaining holdout on that, and I seriously hope they reconsider.
But last point, Apple's always going to be kind of super exclusive.
Oh, I know they will, but I just would like some kind of cooperation.
Like nothing that works on Microsoft that was made for Microsoft works on Mac. You have to adapt it to Mac.
Yeah.
Right? So it's
Yeah, I'm just talking
dang it,
files or something like that. I found a song.
Apple, I gave you some pretty good things, right? I told you you're doing good with iTunes, but you're not listening.
Apple, ever since Steve Jobs died, has just been stubborn.
I mean, it's sad to
even
say.
with Steve Jobs alive, they were stubborn.
They were stubborn, and they even
Steve
kicked
Jobs
him out.
was stubborn. So
Steve Jobs was stubborn, but he made things.
He knew what he was doing, and he was a genius. He wasn't the one who made the tech, but he knew how to market it, and he knew what people wanted.
This is a whole different discussion, but people say Steve Jobs is a douchebag, and
in
many respects he is, but he still was innovative, and he still was.
He knew what people wanted, and he knew how to market it.
Yeah.
That was his genius. He knew people with computers in the early days. We take it for granted now because we grew up on computers. We know how to use them. He knew when computers were just starting to get into homes, like with the Apple II and the iMac. He's like, people don't want all these different options and parts. They want simplicity. They want to be able to turn it on and use it. And that's what Apple did. Even with iPhones now, if you're not a phone person and you don't know how to work all this stuff, you turn on the iPhone and you almost instantly know how to use it.
Yeah.
That is the
It tells
genius
you
of
how to
Apple.
use it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is the genius of Apple computers and phones and
that's why
tablets, all of them.
And that's what every other
Thumbs
company's
up,
following.
Apple.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
I've
Lives
never
of
owned
comments.
I've never owned an Apple product in my life, but I still respect the company and its
Yeah.
founder.
So, anyways,
Yeah.
that was a good talk about the death of cable.
Yeah,
Ostensibly.
shortest episode so far. So
Yeah.
Sort of branched off into
yeah.
other things.
So yeah, that also means it's the end of the 5th episode of the Cate-Cast.
Whoa.
We do have a special announcement. We're coming to iTunes and Google Play.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about Google Play.
Android users get.
I mean, I am an Android user, like I said.
Do you really care about Google Play?
It's the only way to
I
watch
actually
podcasts.
haven't used Google Play in such a long time.
Exactly my point.
Hey, it's still nice to have it on there for people.
Yes.
To yeah.
Yes, we will. But in any case, we're coming to iTunes. We're coming to Google Play. We're still going through the validation process and stuff for that. It's actually a lot more complicated than it needs to be.
Very.
But hey, it's iTunes and Google Play. Actually, technically, it's Apple Podcasts now, but same difference.
Yeah. Made it to episode 5.
Yeah, we also made it to episode 5. It's technically our 5-week anniversary.
Yeah. This with as we were saying about
Yeah.
the podcast streaming on this, iTunes and Google Play have both been submitted the podcast for review, which should probably be within 2 weeks. I would
Yeah.
expect before that. We will send out a tweet if you're following us on Twitter for when it is live on both
We'll
services.
send out a tweet, and we'll also have a special announcement at the beginning and end of the first episode that we
Yes.
are on iTunes for.
With the iTunes streaming and Google Play streaming will be our only two outside of YouTube. Do not expect Spotify because that we are charged a monthly premium for Spotify.
Yeah.
So
Maybe if we get a Patreon. And
maybe if we get a Patreon or we get big enough,
Yeah.
there might be a Spotify. But as of right now, it's just going to be YouTube,
Yeah.
iTunes, and Google Play.
We already paid so much for that Podbean
yeah.
subscription. Oh my gosh. Anyways, let's not get too hung up on that. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to actually being able to functionally listen to our podcast instead of opening up YouTube and having to keep YouTube on because I know for some people that's a pain. Don't want it to be a pain.
Yeah.
I want people to be able to listen to any podcast as easily as possible.
Yeah.
I get frustrated when a podcast is only on YouTube because
Yeah.
I'm like, you know how awesome this would be if I could turn YouTube off.
You get YouTube Red, you can do that. That's another streaming service, YouTube Red.
I wish I had.
I had YouTube Red for a little while.
when it was
Not
free.
worth it.
I didn't
Not
think
worth
so.
it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the end of the 5th episode.
Nice job, guys.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Obligatory like and subscribe. Also, if this podcast ends up on iTunes, give us that 5-star review.
Yeah. Get us on the trending page.
Or don't. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good job.
Thanks. Yeah.
Once again,
we should have a Halloween special coming up.
yeah,
soon.
we'll figure out something.
Was it the week of the 48 or the week next week?
Well, yeah. So we'll have to discuss our Halloween plans because this next week is not. We do not have a 48 screening.
Yeah.
After the podcast, the following week we do,
And that's
if
actually
we
on
want
the,
to. So
on
if we
Halloween.
want to go long for Halloween for some reason, it's probably more beneficial for next week. So we'll obviously let you know at the beginning of next week. I'm
We'll
still
tweet
going to
it.
talk about Kingdom Hearts because I need to make sure I get through all of these games.
We'll make sure we'll put a little section at the end to talk about Kingdom Hearts as like a Ezra's Kingdom Hearts 3 watch or countdown,
yes.
whatever we're calling it.
Whatever we're doing. Whatever we do, there will be a Halloween special.
There will be.
Well,
So-
and I'm seeing Halloween, the new Halloween movie
Yep.
this Friday.
I'm seeing it this
so we'll be able
Friday.
to talk about it whenever the next episode
I'm
is.
seeing it tomorrow, actually. So.
Yeah.
Nice. So, yeah. That's the end of the 5th episode of the podcast, or the Cate-Cast, which I did find out there is a Cate-Cast on iTunes, but it's a Catholic podcast.
Oh, well,
So
probably spelled different then.
yeah, it's spelled a little different, not terribly different though, actually. So
Well, or should I plug our Twitter?
yeah, plug our
Yeah.
Twitter.
So for Twitter, due to their weird algorithm, it's backwards. So instead of @Cate-Cast, it's @CastCata, C-A-S-T-C-A-T-E. Wait, I probably did that wrong. I did that wrong.
C-A-S-T-C-A-T-E.
No, there's no dash.
There is
no dash on the Twitter.
So C-A-T-E.
No, other way around. C-A-S-T-C-A-T-E.
I'm so confused.
On Twitter, it's C-A-S-T-C-A-T-E, but it's C-A-T-E-C-A-S-T on YouTube.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll make sure that it's actually correct on iTunes.
Yeah, and I'll link it in the description.
Yeah. So yeah. Once again, I'm Ezra.
I'm Ahmad.
And I'm Sawyer.
And that's the 5th episode of the podcast. We'll see you later.